a test. And I believe we must all respond to this call. That if the face of democracy does not change after 2025, we are going to go through another history. And it must be a collaborative effort. Because I am telling you authoritatively, people are losing confidence in democracy. And there is a reaction, we can consider for crying.
Quite a number of the oversight institutions have failed to deliver. And when Mr. Poku talks about the threats that we are facing, there are more internal threats than those that emanate from the outside. We don't want to talk about that because it's uncomfortable. We are increasingly seeing, and I like Mr. Poku's example of Ashama, in which Parliament was fantastically silent. But not only that, there have been lots of instances where Parliament ought to have spoken, but has not.
Right. I didn't hear Afenyo Marking, did I? Okay. Let's hear Afenyo Marking. It's important to hear him also because he also joined this discussion. Francis Poku and Professor Kwesienin, they were speaking at the Republic Day lecture organized by the One Ghana movement. Let's listen to Afenyo Marking.
The consequences may be dire for our stability. Throughout history, frustrations and disillusionment among the masses, including the youth, have led to significant social and political unrest. The recent Gen Z activism in Kenya serves as a striking warning. To prevent such scenarios in Ghana, it is imperative that the political class collaboratively take proactive and comprehensive measures to address the underlying causes of public discontent. Our preoccupation with political maneuvering should not blind us to the reality of public expectations. Let us all recommit to a national agenda that not only leverages the potential of our youth, but also unlocks the massive development potential often associated with the demographic dividend.
The majority leader raising the issue in Parliament after Francis Poku, former National Security Minister, and Professor Kwesienin raised it at the One Ghana movement Republic Day event organized together with the Ghana Armed Forces Command and Staff College. So, Dr. Atta Kennedy, many are saying that if it is the Kenya situation that is being used to give these sort of warnings, Ghana has seen beyond the things that the youth in Kenya have literally forced the president to now admit to and is doing. Ghana has seen far beyond that. So that if you took the National Cathedral and what we are spending on it, if you took all the many issues that have come up and government's response, if a Kenya kind of protest would have happened, it would have happened long ago in Ghana. The issue about the first ladies and so on, it had to be settled in the court. In Kenya, the youth just forced the president to scrap the first ladies' offices and their salaries. If it has to be appointments in offices that have double deputies, triple deputies, and so on, or CEOs, they went to the street to force Ruto to remove all of that. In Ghana, we have too many of that, and nobody has gone on the streets. E-levy came up, for example. People just stopped a little demonstration here and there. The government didn't exactly listen. It ended there. Their finance bill which goes far deeper than an e-levy sort of thing, they have used the street to stop it. Here, the minority went to the Supreme Court over that matter. Purchase of vehicles. They have forced the president to suspend the purchase of vehicles for 12 months. Non-essential travels by state public officials. They forced the president to suspend that. Nobody is going to court over that. They stopped all of that by getting on the streets. The government has reduced the number of advisors in government by 50% by a street march. 47 state corporations with overlapping and duplicate functions are being dissolved by a march on the street. We have more than these. That's my point. So if this would have happened in Ghana, it would have happened already.
Samson, those who ignore history are condemned to repeat its tragedies. I have been around for some time. I remember that these remarks you are making about, oh, if it was going to happen here, it would have happened long ago. They were saying that during the Kalabule era, just before 1979 exploded, and I was in sixth form. I remember the first time Mr. Rawlings showed up on June 4th, one of my teachers who said he knew him very well said, oh, this guy can't run a country for 1 week. Well, he was there for a very long time. I have seen what has happened in West Africa recently, in Guinea and other places, and we have heard echoes of the young soldiers who are staging coups and making revolution speak fondly of Mr. Rawlings. History is cyclical, and complacency is a very dangerous thing. Actually, in 1973, Chile had been an uninterrupted democracy for 100 years, and they were very complacent that their stability was such that nothing would disturb it. That was before Pinochet burst on the scene. We've seen what is happening in ECOWAS. We've seen the Arab Spring, the revolutions. When you look at the American Revolution and the French Revolution and most of it, the underlying motives are economic discontent. And in Ghana, we have despair and desperation. I remember Archbishop Duncan Williams a couple of years ago saying, anger on the streets, and if it explodes, it will be very difficult to deal with it. The conduct of our public officials seems to be daring the streets to explode. And I fear that when it does explode, it will be too late to do anything about it. I am glad that Afenyo Markin made the remarks he made, but he needs to go beyond that. Parliament needs to start doing some accountability. We live in a country where our powers that be have allowed the destruction of our environment and the pollution of our rivers. South Africa has a lot of minerals, but it has not allowed its waters and others to be destroyed the way it is being destroyed. We are a secular state, and the government commits millions of our money to building a cathedral that has become a hole in the ground. Actually, in 2020, before the choice of speaker, there were members of the armed forces in the presence of parliament. Since then, nobody has said anything about that. There was the Teman 8 who were shot in cold blood during an election. There was the case of Santrofie Apafulolobi and Lipe, who were disenfranchised, and nobody said thing. Imagine if this had happened in Bantuma. So there are a lot of grievances that we are ignoring. And I urge the majority leader not just to stop at words. We can, for example, start with all those public housing projects going to waste where people have no places to stay. We can stop buying elections because people are buying elections. We saw the appointment of DCs. People paid money for votes. We saw the primaries that we've just seen. This country can't keep going on like that. And sooner or later, there will be an explosion on the streets. I know what you said, that maybe people say if this was going to happen, it would have happened already. But we said this before. We said that before June 4th. And that is what we got. So we need to start acting to reassure people on the streets, the young men and women, so that they can see hope for them and hope for their future, so they will not be crossing the Sahara and swimming across the Red Sea to die in deserts and perish in the seas, while people arrogantly misuse our resources.
All right. Thank you very much. That was brief and in a manner that I like it, because we have very limited time for this very final part of the program. Now, Ricketts Hagan, they went on the street, and suddenly the president gets to a realization that they can save as much as $1.4 billion. So that's the amount of expenditure cut that has happened on the streets.
Imagine if this had happened before e-levy and other things, maybe the situation would have been different. But thank God. You sit in Parliament and you worry. And you ask yourself, can this go on forever? And you know the answer is no.
Can what go on forever?
The things that are going on in this country, Gracia, you look at loans being approved in Parliament, that is brought in by the executive, and the project that the money is supposed to do, nothing happens.
The parliamentarians in Kenya who passed the finance bill, which the president was forced to reject, not to sign, they have been wearing T-shirts and they've written on them, "I am sorry." One attempted to attend the funeral of one of the guys who was killed. I'm sure he's regretted it.
And not only on that, you know, a recent issue to do with a minister of state, a cabinet minister, using his company that he claims he's not attached to take state asset or buy state assets cheaply. You talk about words like conflict of interest. And people don't seem to even understand what conflict of interest means. It looks as if we need to spell out a new definition, not a new definition, spell out what conflict of interest is. And people hide behind the laws and say, what has he done wrong? You know, there is an offer and the guy is, thinks he can do better and he's doing it.
They say he hasn't broken any law.
Any laws. That's what I'm saying. They're hiding behind the laws.
The minister is found to keep $1 million in her house. We are told she hasn't broken any law, so no problems.
You know,
it's actually broken law.
A lot is going on. That is quite troubling. And you feel that this is just a matter of time. And maybe the Kenya situation, it looks like it's become a wake-up call. And if we, the political class, the whole country, Ghana, doesn't set up, corruption has become endemic. People are even...
What should we do?
There's a lot we can do.
Like what?
Well, stop stealing.
You should tell your people.
Well, it's not only politicians.
But who?
The whole country.
Leadership is everything.
Look, we are all doing things that, as I was going to say before you came in, that corruption has become so endemic that when people are in the act of corruption, they don't even see it. They don't even see that what I'm doing anything wrong.
So the alarm bells are justified?
The alarm bells are justified. Long overdue.
Kofi, you think these things will happen in Ghana? Where people, even the notice to demonstrate and how the police will come out on you. And earlier I mentioned somebody like Oliver. It was E-Levy that he was angry about. He got arrested. He got thrown into the cells for so long. Abused, his rights completely abused. As we sit, he's being prosecuted over that. Don't you think that there's also the fear in people here that you can't get on the streets and do the things that the Kenyan youth did?
That fear, well, I mean, everybody has their level of, fear. So I have been on the street.
I'm asking the wrong person the question.
Exactly. But the point must be made that there is always, that tendency, and depends on the nature or the posture of the government. On that score, Ghana or our governments have actually been one of the better examples. But we should not gloss over the issue that these things can happen here. Rawlings is an example. Nobody knew him till he burst up and took over the whole country. We have been blessed to avoid these things, okay? But again, we need to appreciate that things have changed. We have a whole generation that hasn't experienced what they are calling for military rule. However, we are dealing with a failure of leadership. We can have a whole program and complain. Why I was asking him, he's a politician. What are we going to do? Let me tell you what we can do, okay? The next parliament must elect DCs. The next parliament must cancel the law that allows ministers to be taken out of parliament. That breeds too much corruption. The next parliament must make sure that they do a constitutional review working with the executive. The next parliament must repeal Article 71. And all of you, stop taking ex gratia. Look, we are driving this country to a place where the youth have no option than to come and deal. And I'm addressing you as a politician. You know why I do that? All of us, we talk and talk and talk. I am in no place to change law. When you go to parliament, go there because you want to change law. We will be dealing with the presidents and we will say whatever we have to say. But the action starts in parliament. The failure happens in parliament. We are failing as a country because we are electing the wrong people to parliament. All right? But I've told you a few things you can do. We can elect DCs tomorrow. It will lower things. We can make sure that we strike out Article 71. All of it should be deleted. We can make sure that we start doing some of the constitutional review things that we need to do to move our constitution to a place where you people now start to serve us. We in civil society will continue to scream and shout, but what I'll tell you is this. The warnings should be heeded. However, the people also sounding the warnings, be careful what you pray for. Because some of these things, you think when it bangs, it's going to happen to only the person you don't like.
Are they praying for it? Are they praying for it, or they are just saying these things are the signs? Just watch out.
Both.
They are not praying for it.
Both. I have heard people say, bring on the military. In fact, actually the last election, there were a number of times I had to tell people, you don't know what you're asking for. So look, for me, I'm saying not all of us have to go and change these things.
Okay.
We will push, but the politicians, when you get into parliament, do something for the country.
Okay. I'm sorry, but and Japan, I'm sorry, but we have run out of time. My outfit, as always, is by Kunati Clothing. You can find them at Adenta Shopping Center, Adenta Down. You can get them on 0244 676732. 0244 676732. That is Kunati Clothing. What you wear counts. Call them and they would give you the best of discounts you're looking for. Tomorrow at 2 p.m., join me on the law as I engage Justice Alexander Osei-Tutu, who is coming out with another new book. And we're looking at evolving legal issues and having a very good conversation. You learn a lot. Thank you very much. I'm Samson Ladi Anyanini. Have a good afternoon.